Karen Marinaccio grew up in New York City where she worked up until 16 years ago when she retired and moved to Danville.
It was fabulous. It was fabulous. I mean, you could go anywhere you wanted. Like I said, I went roller skating up First Avenue and went into the UN. And we would go to the museums, and not with our parents, my friends and I. We would just, go to natural history, go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Around a year prior to September 11th, 2001, Marinaccio's firm moved their offices to 7 World Trade Center.
And we were not too happy about that because everybody remembered the bombing of 1993, and no one wanted to go down to the Trade Center. No one.
Her day began much like any normal work day.
Get to work and we take out pending items and pull off your emails and check and see the status of things and start calling up, brokerage houses and transfer agents. And
what do you remember about that morning, about September 11th?
It was beautiful. It was so crisp and sunny out. And it was just beautiful. I felt good going to work that day. It was just glorious because you had the Hudson River not far. And, we'd go upstairs and look out the window and you'd see like the Hudson. And it was so pretty. You'd see it sparkling and everything. And I was happy that day. I came in and I didn't go to the North Tower for my chocolate croissant and my coffee from Au Bon Pain. I had chocolate biscotti from home. So I got some coffee, and from our little kitchenette, and sat down and ate my biscotti and took off my emails. And then about, 20 to 9 or something, the building shook. I mean, it shook as if I was a toy in a toy building and somebody was shaking the toy. And there weren't many people, and they might have been, there weren't many people in my unit that had gotten there yet. There was only another girl, and there was my manager, and we were like, whoa, the lights went out, then they came back on. So, trading desk to the right of me, the trader called over and said, come here, Karen, it looks like a low-flying commuter plane went into the North Tower. So I got up and I went to look out the window, and there was this huge hole with all these flames licking out and all of this metal that was the facing, and probably the plane too, but the facing of the building. If you saw the towers, you'd see that it had this metal facing on it, but there was no plane. I said to him, where's the plane? He said, I don't know. But it was just amazing, and it looked like a snow globe with all the metal in the sun. It was actually beautiful. There was no plane. So I went back to my desk, and I continued to take my emails off. And then maybe about 10 minutes later, well, let me go back a little bit. I thought that maybe the elevator banks, maybe the ropes or the cables broke, and that the elevators hit the bottom of the building, because that is the sound, and how could you shake a building like that? So, like I said, 10 minutes later, the other plane hit the South Tower, which I could not see. When the second plane hit, I could not see it because I don't know if the trading desk could see it, but I didn't see it. But it shook. It's amazingly enough, it shook that building something fierce, my building, and everybody said, get up, we're evacuating. And we did just what you're not supposed to do, get on the elevator like a bunch of sheep. And we got downstairs, and it was like a side entrance, I imagine. We came out on the front of my building, and the streets are pretty narrow downtown in the financial district in Manhattan. And my building was right across the street. I don't know how many feet, but there was the North Tower. And I think everybody was wondering what the heck is going on, because we saw on the 102nd floor of the brokerage house Cantor Fitzgerald, the flames were coming out like mad, and what we imagined to be part of the metal facade of the Trade Center were actually people coming down from the 102nd floor. And when they hit the sidewalk, it went boom! And then two other people came, and they looked like they were like holding hands, but they looked like abstract pieces of metal when they were coming down. And that's why we really did not think they were people. But then as they got closer, we said, oh my God, those are people. And then they hit. And at that point, there was a police officer standing there with me and some other people from my unit, maybe another unit, and he said, that's it, walk north, walk north. And north would have been walking up Broadway. You kind of like went in a little bit of a shock at it all, because you didn't really understand who did what and what caused this. So we just listened to the cop, and we went around the corner and started walking up Broadway. But between the time that I was sitting there and we were evacuated, it wasn't all that long, because I'd have to say I was on my way walking up Broadway by about 20 after 9, 9:30, something like that. You know, the whole thing was pretty quick. It was pretty quick. And then walking up Broadway, you realize that a lot of cars weren't moving anywhere, so they had their radios on, and you're hearing all of a sudden, terrorist attack, terrorist attack. And then that's like, whoa, you know, you had to think about that. And I thought then and there to myself, after the first tower came down at about, I'd have to say that was like a little after 10, because I got to a payphone to call my son, and I think that was about 10 minutes to 10. And I got him. The phone was working. Cell phones stopped working very shortly after the planes hit. So that payphone worked, and I just got on. You know, there were two people ahead of me, and I told Michael I was fine. Don't worry about it, and I'm working my way home. I'm on Broadway. And right after I hung that phone up, the North Tower came down. And it came down like dominoes. And at that point, it was like a Bruce Willis movie. To me, that's what I thought of. This is crazy. This is just too crazy. And I sat on the curb. That's it, I had enough. I sat on the curb. And just said a prayer to two people that had passed for them to help me get home.
When did it start to sink in what was happening?
When I hit First Avenue, which was my goal, to walk up First Avenue and get to the Queensboro Bridge on 59th Street and First Avenue. So that's when it hit me, when I hit First Avenue and saw that the cars were like, there was traffic, but it wasn't going anywhere. And there was no buses. And at one point I tried to go down into the subway, and there were no trains running. So I knew that I had to walk if I wanted to get home.
Facing a 12-mile or more walk back to her home in Queens, Karen was lucky enough to find a ride with a postal carrier before finding a bus driver who was taking passengers.
All of a sudden a bus pulls up, a Queens bus, and it was so jam-packed that I think everybody was looking to get on that bus. And the bus driver opened the door, and he looked at me, and I said, "Can I get on? Can I get on?" And he said, motion for me to get on. So I did. And that's where I felt a sense of relief, like this is going to drop me off on Queens Boulevard, and then from there I will walk to my house, which were several miles, but I still walked it. And I got home about 6 o'clock, and my son was home, and he says, "Oh, Mommy," he said, "your building went down. Your building's gone." And that was Seven World, and right across from the North Tower. And he was grabbing me and so happy to see me. And I said, "Oh, Mike, truthfully, I said to him, you knew Mommy was going to get home, because Mommy was a tough nut." And I did get home, but I just don't remember too much after that. I'm sure I went up and washed and changed and didn't want to look at the TV. I don't want to look at it.
Did you have friends or acquaintances that didn't make it out?
I knew one gentleman that I work with. I can't remember his name. It was something Frank. Peter Frank, that's right. I had worked with him, and he did. He went down with the tower. And my husband, Jim, knew one broker that was called into work. He was supposed to retire, or he retired already? He was going to retire on Friday, and that was a Tuesday. And they called him and asked him please to come into work, and I believe that was with Cantor Fitzgerald. Yeah, and he came into work as a favor for them, and he went down with the towers. And he was supposed to retire that Friday. So you don't know what God has in store for you. When he wants you, he wants you.
When you think back, what do you think about most? Or
I've never gone back. I don't want to go back. To me, it's a sacred place. So many people died there. So many people have never been found. A woman that lived across the street from me in Queens, her husband was a fireman. They didn't find his body, and she refused to have a memorial service for him because he wasn't found. And it was just strange. It was terrible. I look upon it as a graveyard.